you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are seasons that makes official. Welcome to 16 years, 2,500 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. And we bring you those amazing minds. Make sure you refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet.
Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind.
Today, amazing two young men on the show with us today, Robert Grover and Gary Logan. We're going to be talking about their company and insights on what they do at what's called the Journeymen Collective. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How are you?
You're doing well, Chris. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming, gentlemen. Give us any .coms where you want people to look you guys up on the interwebs and maybe socials or whatever you want.
You can reach us on our website, www.thejourneymen.com, thejourneymencollective.com.
Also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, same handle.
So give us a 30,000 overview of what you guys do there and your titles, et cetera, et cetera.
So we are both spiritual advisors, performance coaches, and we guide executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals through psychedelic journeys to explore deeper levels of consciousness within, so they can actually bring that level of consciousness into their lives, into their relationships, and most importantly, into their businesses, and so that they actually have an increase in prosperity, wealth, health, and well-being.
So how do you guys usually accomplish that sort of thing? What are the different methods that you take and use?
We have a 4-month offering. The clients would be enrolled and work with us for 4 months, 1 month prep work, getting the client prepared for the journey experience. Then they would adventure to Kelowna, where our center is, and spend 4 full days with us. And in that process, there is going to be the use of psychedelics in the journey process and executive coaching. There will also be a mind-body conscious awareness training. There will be breath work, meditation. That's sort of in a nutshell of what the 4 days are. And then after the 4 days, we will be with you for another 3 months of integration work. What is integration work? What you discover during the journey process is what you're going to hopefully implement into your life and do a major shift in your life, change of your emotions, of who you are, where you want to be, and how to show up in the world.
Oh. You guys do expertly guided luxury psilocybin. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes.
Retreats in Canada and the U.S. So people can utilize. What is psilocybin?
So psilocybin is what most people know as magic mushrooms. And for me, I first explored mushrooms in university, and it was fun. It was a trip. And then someone brought the idea to me after Gary's mom lived with us for 3.5 years. She passed away suddenly. And this woman came into our life and she said, Rob, I think you and Gary could really benefit from a psychedelic journey using mushrooms. And I scoffed at the idea immediately. I thought, you're absolutely nuts. I've done that before. It was fun. What are you talking about? And she said, no. It's a really great way to clear out the cobwebs, clear out depression, clear out anxiety. And that's exactly what it did. Grief, depression, anxiety was gone. I went on a guided psilocybin journey with a medicine man, and no, he was dressed just as you and I are today in normal everyday clothes. And he guided me through a journey, and the depression, grief, anxiety was gone.
Wow.
And I found my inner joy again.
Wow. And what was your experience, Gary?
As Robert was the guinea pig, I said, "You go do the thing. I don't do mushroom." How can a mushroom help you? Boy, I was wrong. It was like when I saw the shift in Robert, his energy and he was more happy, and the depression had relief. I thought, well, it will help me, and it did. It lifted the grief and depression. Amazing experience. Thought it'd be a one-time only shot, that this is what we're going to do, and move on with our life and carry on with our coaching and our executive coaching, etc. stuff. But we were wrong. We were shown that this is the path that we're supposed to create and guide and lead executive CEOs, entrepreneurs, those that know there's something more to life than what they're hitting right now. And we help them get beyond that ceiling and move forward with a purposeful, driven life.
Well, a lot of these emotions, depression and burnout stuff hold people back, and, they affect performance as well. Give us both your short bios on both of you. What was your guys' experience, and maybe some of the experience of your life that brought you to this point where you're like, hey, I need to relieve myself of, some of these different issues I'm having and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So quick background for me. I jokingly say that I'm a recovering scientist. I worked in the oil and gas, petroleum and mining industry.
Well, that'll burn you out.
And had a brilliant understanding of the earth. And I loved studying the earth and did it so much, or I loved it so much that I was like, well, I'm going to get an undergraduate degree and a master's degree, and then went on to work in corporate. And when I was in corporate, I always felt like there was something missing. Like I wasn't quite in the pocket that I needed to be in. And little by little, probably since 2002, I just sort of started studying mindfulness, what I could actually learn more about the mind, body, and the soul, or the spirit. And that's what really lit me up inside. So I just kept studying, kept learning, kept training. So basically since about 2002, that's been a big part of my world. I left corporate in 2015, started my own coaching, executive coaching practice. And then 2017, we experienced the passing of Gary's mom. And that was a massive wake-up call of like, life happens quickly and it's over quickly. So what the frick are you doing with your lives? And that was the wake-up call to that next phase of the awakening process, and stepped into that journey just with a desire to know more about myself and to honor the genius that was within, that was sort of hiding, and came through that experience and was like, this is the next step. So again, we didn't just start doling out mushrooms to people. It was a whole entire process of pulling all the different strands of Gary and all the different strands of Rob to create a supportive, trusting, caring, and super safe environment for people to go inward with mushrooms. Gary has a very different background than myself, but it complements the Journeyman Collective.
So you went through the corporate run and got the burnout and all that stuff. So you've experienced what a lot of executives are coming to you from or for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gary?
Yeah, definitely. So I started earlier in life, and I would say I think my growth and exploration to self started when I was in theater school from 18 to 20. So 2 years of, if anybody knows about it, like a theater program, they basically take who you are, break you apart, and build you up to who you're supposed to be and represent yourself in the world so you can represent other characters on stage. So right into meditation and mindfulness was right from the start at that young age. I moved to England and decided to go to another theater school for 2 years, and was introduced to a program called the Alexander Technique, which is a mind-body conscious awareness training. And the teacher came out to me and says, I think you need to be a teacher of the Alexander Technique. And I said, no, I'm here to be an actor. I'm not here to teach. That was when I was 24. Let's go fast forward into many years ago. I decided to go back to school again and become an Alexander teacher. So it's a major part of my life and being, which we incorporate into the work that we provide to our clients. Also, I wasn't much of a churchgoer, and a friend of mine took me to church one time, and the minister or the priest was talking about thorns, burdens, and crosses that we carry. So he said during the service, you might have Christ come behind you and lift the thorns, burdens, and crosses off your shoulders. Hands up. Somebody's hands came behind me and lifted the thorns, burdens, and cross off my shoulders.
Wow.
I had an awakening right there. It's like, holy shit. My hair is tingling and I don't have much hair on my head. And it's like, wow. So I explained this to a friend, and then she introduced me to another spiritual center in Vancouver called Unity. And it felt like home. And there they taught metaphysical teaching, mindfulness, meditation, and a real purpose in life and your true direction. And from there, I also embarked on a 2-year teaching program for healing touch at the Vancouver General Hospital. So I bring a lot to the table, which we implement in our work. And that's how the Journeyman Collective sort of came together.
Why do you think this works so well? Does it completely eliminate depression, or does it kind of turn the volume down a little bit? And then after that, after you have your experience in a guided tour with you guys, what happens in the after follow-up of this? Is there steps you need to take in trying to focus maybe on lessening your depression, et cetera, et cetera? Or continue to take mushrooms? How does that work?
Yeah, there's so many different components, and every human's unique. The key thing is that all humans are habitual creatures.
Yeah, I've seen that. I have too many bad habits.
Exactly. Yeah. So we all have habits, and then we have to we take a good hard look at ourselves and recognize, okay, well, the habit's not just physical, me doing something. It's also how I think and how I feel about things. So it's thinking, feeling, and doing. And then what does a mushroom do in the forest? If you look at mushrooms, fungi in the ecosystem in nature, they decompose that which is no longer necessary. And it redistributes that energy into the next level of growth. Guess what? Humans, every single person listening to this, is nature as well. So there's pieces of you that there's baggage from trauma and drama of yesterday, yesteryear, and yesterdecade that we've all been carrying, but no one has ever shown up to help us release it. And we worked with a woman, 62 years young, and she said, I've been carrying this unnecessary baggage for the last 62 years of my life. And she said, I just let the sewer go. I let it all go. And those are her words. Yeah. And she said, I just feel so clear and so centered, and all that BS that I endured during my life. And she went through a pretty traumatic upbringing.
Yeah.
And she just so centered and so clear. And now as a function of that, she has greater clarity of mind. She is more focused when she's doing the work. It's easier for her to get into flow. And it's easier for her to solve problems. And then it's also easier for her to recognize her own BS in her mind. And when she's telling herself stories that no longer serve her, and she can flip them. So the habits, the time that you spend in the destructive habits decreases, and then you start to witness and expand the habits that, hey, this is where my genius is. This is no one else might have this, but I know that this is my lane. This is my pocket where I get to create something in life, in relationships, and business, and then life explodes in a really brilliant way.
That's really interesting. So do you find that does it come back, or is this like a permanent turn down of that noise? And is it something where people have an awakening where they become more self-aware of, these depression issues? Sometimes when I was younger, I get in depression. I wouldn't know I was in depression. I just figured, everyone has hard times and everyone feels a little beaten up sometimes, but no, sometimes depression is depression. And so does it ever return? Do they need, do you need to keep on going, taking mushrooms? Do you need to live in a place where you can? I guess, I think only certain states still may legalize that. How does that work, I guess?
Yeah. So basically with our journeys, what we find is that most people will come back maybe once every 3 to 4 years. Some people may come back once a year. And then some people are perfectly good to go, that they're like, I've got so much information, so much learning that it's going to take me a lifetime to unpack all of this. And they're dedicated and they're devoted to understanding more about self. And then those who come in who may have some form of depression, they start to recognize their own habits and their own loops, their own mental loops of when they're getting into it. So we actually teach people how to uproot those old patterns. So the aftercare after a journey, we work with people for a minimum of 3 months, and typically it's for a lifetime. But we just tell people that and educate people to witness your own shadow, your own subconscious. And your listeners might be like, well, how can I witness something that's subconscious if it's subconscious? But you can start to listen and become more self-aware of your own patterns of dysfunction that we've all been given. Because they've been passed down to us by our loving or non-loving mother and father. And so the depression can come back, but typically people witness it as a creative potential that they just haven't learned how to use. So it's like we call it it's a delivery from UPS that you just haven't been taught how to actually process it and how to learn from it. So it's a transmutation process where people actually learn how to use that shadow energy to create something new in their life.
Wow. Do we have both your input on that? Does somebody else want to jump in?
Yeah, you're right, Chris. These emotions are all human and we're supposed to experience them. The thing is not to get stuck in them. And that's when people get really depressed. That story, the record, I always call it's a record that's on repeat, and the groove is so deep that the needle can't pop over to the next song. Yeah. So what we coach you and guide you is like, let's take the needle off, take the record, break it against the wall, put a new vinyl on. I might be dating myself, but put a new vinyl on and record a new song, a new story that you want to move forward in life and release the old. So yeah, the dial gets turned down after a journey, but you are the controller of that dial. So it's up to you to either you're going to put it up to 10 or just keep it down to 1.
And I would say microdosing helps as well. And you might do that 5 days on, 2 days off, or 1 day a week. And again, it's microdosing is meant to be like, you don't actually experience any psychedelic component, but it sort of softens the edges of a stressful day and helps create greater focus, greater clarity of mind, and just softens the edges of a stressful day.
There you go. 4 full days of the retreat that you guys hold. Now, how often do you hold these retreats, and how does one know when they can get involved in it?
Definitely. We work around 10 to 11 months a year, and we usually do 2 journeys a month. And that just gives us enough space in between. We have done 3, but the average is 2. And we usually work in groups of 3 to 4 clients. Sometimes some people just want a private Rob and Gary experience with the Journeyman Collective. So they'll opt for the solo option, or maybe a power partner, meaning 2 people from the same company come together, or a partner, husband, wife, whatever the situation is, will come just as a 2-partner deal.
Maybe it can help with marriage counseling or something.
We say jokingly we saved a few marriages, but
really?
They've saved themselves in the end. We were just there to guide them along the path. Yeah.
Sometimes you need to release all that kind of. I like the record groove analogy that you use, where sometimes you just got to try and reset that record or fix it or something. And you guys have done decades of experience in science and 10,000 plus hours of guided journeys. That's pretty awesome, and helped a lot of people. Do you find you mostly work with women, or do you mostly work with men? Do CEOs have you examples of seeing performance results that really help their business explode?
Oh gosh, yeah. I'd say it's maybe, we haven't looked lately because it used to be more heavily weighted towards women. I'd say we're probably at about like 55, 60% women, 40% men. And yeah, the CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, there's so many stories. One in particular I'm thinking about, he had done all the things. He had done meditation retreats and reading all the books and all the self-help and therapy and whatnot. And he knew he was hitting a ceiling and he just couldn't get through it. He didn't know how to get through that ceiling. He was stressed out. He had stomach problems and digestion problems. He was short with people, irritated with people, and then came through the journey process. And it was super challenging for him. It's not the most comfortable thing to face yourself, but he did it. And after he was actually instructed during the journey. The guidance that he got from the journey was to lead with love. And he's like, guys, I'm not going to go start hugging people in boardrooms and fluffy stuff like that. I said, no, absolutely not. That's not what it is.
That'd be kind of funny to see. What are you doing, boss? I want to hug. No.
Let's hug it out. Come on.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I said, you're going to hold people's feet to the proverbial fire.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to, the same level of empowerment and the process of you shifting to actualize your highest potential. You're going to help people do that now. You're going to lead them into asking them the questions to really find their own answers as opposed to telling them the answers. And what he witnessed was his marriage was better. His relationship with his children were better. He felt more confident. And then as a consequence of that, again, we don't ask people like what their net worth is or anything, but he basically said that in 6 months since his journey, his net worth tripled. So, and then, gosh, there are other stories too, whereby people have quadrupled the actual number of stores that they manage. Again, I'm not going to name names because we take
that's no problem.
Confidentiality seriously, from $1 million businesses to multi-million dollar businesses. And then there's some mom and pop shops that have come and worked with us as well as entrepreneurs. And a big part of what people are starting to really recognize, and there's one family I'm thinking of in particular, the husband came and worked with us. He sorted out his own inner shit, and he was retired for the most part. And then he was like, oh, my wife might need to like come on this as well so she can sort out her stuff. And both of them had traumatic upbringings in their lives, both very successful. But then they started witnessing that there was a lot of turmoil in the family that they were raising, and then they started seeing the patterns in their children that they didn't want their children to carry on. And as a function of that, the husband came through the journey, then the wife came through the journey, and now they came through separately, but now this is probably, about a year and a half for the husband and not quite 8 months for the wife. But what we've heard back from them is that their family is actually reaching this new level of, as cheesy as you may want to sound, like as harmony, and there's peace, there's less fights, and there's less tension, and they've learned how to not explode on each other and get angry with each other, and they've decreased the dysfunctional patterns and increased the functional patterns of relating with each other. And as a result, they're like, our family's just freaking happier. So why wouldn't you want that for yourself?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's I dealt with depression when I was young in my 20s, and anxiety. I know I had OCD, ADHD. There's what they call the CEO's disease, and a lot of CEOs have it. That's why they call it the CEO disease. And it's hard to manage it. It's hard to guide it. I thought most of it would fade away in my 50s, and then I got on testosterone replacement therapy. And boy, it came back like a monster. And now it's even harder. I'm like 30 again, but I'm also ADHD 30 again. But I remember dealing with depression and reading about it. And one of the problems you have is in your frontal lobe cortex, it basically becomes like what you talked about with the record stuck on a groove. It just repeats the same thing every day. And I remember when I finally saw a therapist about my ADHD and I was having panic attacks every day and I was really fucking losing it. And he said to me, he goes, yeah, I think, after talking to you, I understand where you're at. He goes, you're really high end on, I mean, they were giving me like fucking elephant tranquilizers just to calm me down. I was so jacked up with anxiety and OCD. Let's put it this way. The tranquilizers they were giving me, I would take 2 of them. And over 9 months, I slowly weaned myself off them, and I started identifying where my trigger, especially physical points were, where I'm like, I just clenched my gut. That means I'm going to go for a ride of panic attack. All right, so let's try and preempt this and interrupt it. And so I learned my patterns and stuff, and I learned what was going. So they put me on Zoloft too, but over 9 months, I weaned myself off of both drugs. And the one drug was pretty addictive. I don't have addictive personality, but by the time I got done weaning myself off that drug by cutting the pills down, I could take half of one of those pills that I used to take 2, and I would fall asleep and have to take a nap. That's how jacked up I was. But before, when I just took the 2 pills, I just returned to normalness. That's how high that frontal lobe cortex. Yeah. And that's basically what a lot of these drugs do, is they slow that down or get that manageable to where it's not this overload of your system that's killing it. And so, yeah, a lot of these drugs will balance the chemicals in your brain, I guess, and create it to where you can interrupt that broken record sort of syndrome. And that was the real key for me. Oh, and then the other thing he said to me, he goes, you live life in repeat, like the record analogy. And I go, no, I don't. He goes, I'll bet you think the same thing every day at different times. Like you have a program of different things you think about every day at certain times. I go, you're full of shit. He goes, I bet you. He goes, go home, and every time you start thinking about a new subject, I want you to write down the date and time and see if you're on repeat. I go, yeah, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. I go home and I keep a record, and within 48 hours, I realize that every day at 10 a.m. I think of some sort of anxiety, and then every day at 12 I think of another anxiety, and it was the same shit every day. It was like an agenda program my brain was running on me of anxiety. It's like, all right, feed him the fear of death. It's 1:00. Feed him fear of death. And so interrupting those patterns was just like so important.
Very much important.
Yeah. The pattern interrupt. That's the key. Like the main thing that you're talking about too is you became aware. You became aware of the pattern, and it's like, it's my own thinking. It's my own programming. I've been programmed to think a certain way, feel a certain way, do a certain way. And then what journeys can do for people, even microdosing helps with neurogenesis. So you're not only interrupting the pattern, but you're creating new neural pathways in the brain. So the new thought can come in, and you can recognize more quickly when the dysfunctional thoughts are trying to derail you.
This is the other thing too. He goes, they have to do a thing with Zoloft where and most of these depression drugs where they have to adjust them till it finally hits. And he goes, and he said to me, he goes, I go, how will I know this shit's working? Because, I just treated it like foo-foo magic at the time. I was kind of an asshole. Still am. But I was like, how am I going to know? He goes, you're going to know. Light's going to go on, and you're going to be suddenly able to pick up thoughts and put them back down again. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's a great story there, buddy. And I remember, I think it took a month and a half dialing in to like 200 milligrams. And when they finally hit it, I remember the moment it happened. Like I went, how come it's quiet in here? And I'm like, what's going on? It's quiet. There's nothing. I'm not thinking about anything. And that's the beautiful part about being a man. You can think about nothing and it's fine. And so I was like, well, I'm going to think of something. And I thought of something. I'm like, I don't want to think about that anymore. And it stopped. I was like, holy shit. because anytime I think about anything, it would just become this big fucking thing.
Mhm.
And so being able to interrupt those patterns, whether it's through Zoloft or, like what I've talked about, or mushrooms and depression, of course, that's a much more natural thing probably with mushrooms that, your body can figure out. Cause I think we've been using mushrooms all through eons of time, but it's probably a more healthier chemical with less side effects too. But just being able to stop that. And
Yes.
so I guess what I'm advocating or seconding on what you guys are doing is if you can stop those patterns and then you can learn to pick up your thoughts and put them back down again
Mhm.
without them becoming these obsessive monsters of, 4 hours later, you're doom scrolling or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's true.
Or
Yeah.
doom thinking,
Yeah, exactly. Like we're
the world's going to end. We're all
Totally.
going to die.
listen, one of the
Doom forecasting.
if I may, one of the things that we often say is like, "Oh goodness me, like we're all fucking fucked." Like we may as well just bend over and put our head up our butt because like
Yeah.
We're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
No,
The sky's
wait a minute.
falling.
Like life's going to continue on in some way, and the likelihood of the apocalypse happening is quite minimal, but it's still there.
Yeah.
So it's like let's plan for a better day as opposed to the absolute worst day.
Yeah, that's usually how I know that I'm having trouble if I've gone into depression mode where I can't put down the thought. Like I can't let it go. It has to consume me. It has to, you've got to, you have to emote in it. You can't just fucking go, I don't really want to think about that right now. And it's okay not to think about some things like or I'm sorry, we're not going to turn this into a fucking pity party or whatever, depression party. No, it'll be okay. And you're going to be fine.
Well, one of Gary's brilliant questions that he often asks is,
How's that working out for you?
Sounds like what I think when I date people.
This thing, it ain't working.
Like, they tell you all their hype shit, and you're like, well, how's that working out for you? You got 10 baby daddies and 50 kids, and I don't know, a broken trail of whatever. But it's not anyone's fault. It's everyone else's fault, not yours.
Exactly.
Yeah. The last 10 guys you dated were narcissists. Were you standing outside the narcissist clinic picking up dudes? What's going on there? Anyway, how's that working out for you? So there. And then my question is, how's this going to work out for me? I'm out. Bye. Ghosting. Anyway, dating jokes. So anything more about what you guys do that we want to let people know about, tease out to people, get them to find out more about you as we go out, or give us your final pitch, one of the two, or both?
I think if you're just asking yourself those questions of like, hey, I've achieved all the things that I thought I was supposed to achieve, and I'm still not fucking happy, and I don't have peace in my life. Is it really truly possible? It is possible. And if you've achieved all the things in your life and you're still bloody depressed and you're still suffering from anxiety, there is another way to actually move through it. And we believe that obviously we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, that a guided journey in luxury is one of the best ways to do it. And you might only do this once in your life. So I would say find the perfect guide for you and allow yourself just to give yourself that time to go inside and witness all the records that are looping. Is it comfortable? No. But the thing is, afterwards, like we even have people, like there was 2 brilliant souls working with us last weekend or the weekend before last, and they're like, I actually spoke to God. And
wow.
And I'm not going to sit there and question whether or not they did. That was their experience. And so then they get to carry that with them for the rest of their life.
Wow.
And these are pretty like high-powered CEOs who like, it's just a little bit fluffy for me. No, they had the experience of it. And they get to carry that with them for the rest of their life. And one of them in particular, he said, I've had a great life. But the person that I walked in the door 4 days ago is a totally different person. I'm such a better person. I'm probably going to be nicer to people.
Well, how mean were they being? I don't know. I've gone through that where I've been a complete asshole on the job.
Yeah. So if you're witnessing that there's shit in your life that you no longer want to have in your life, then come and work with the Journeyman Collective, because we are dubbed professional shit shifters. And TSW, this shit works if you're willing to do the work.
Yeah. Also, age doesn't matter. We had a client says, "Oh, is this an age thing? You know, I'm not getting it, or they're not going to get it." I said, "It doesn't matter. We've had a 21-year-old brilliant woman, and we've had a 77-year-old woman that's completed her career and knew that there's still a little bit more she needs to offer the world. So if you think it's not now, maybe later, or I'm going to wait." We always say wait is the bad 4-letter word. No time, but the now time.
Yeah, do it now. I mean, you know, I like I said, I was kind of like, yeah, some of this stuff is foo art. I don't know about this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And boy, was I proven wrong in dealing with my depression. I didn't realize how deep I was. Like I was pretty deep, and my, panic attacks every day. I mean, I remember my business partner had a panic attack and he went in the hospital because he thought he had a heart attack. And I'm like, I'm doing that 2-3 times a day. And wuss. So yeah, you don't realize how much in the box you are and how you can't see outside of it. And that's really the key to things like this, is it can get you outside the box. It can shut down the narrative. I mean, I've been in places of depression where you're considering suicide, and I understand why people commit suicide, because you get whipped so hard internally inside your brain that you reach a point where that's the only way you can feel that you can stop it, is just to shut your brain down. It's not that you're trying to necessarily self-harm. You're just sick of it, and it will run you ragged. It will beat you like a driven animal, and you'll just be like, why is my brain relentless? And so yeah, interrupting these patterns is really important, and being able to see the machinery and go, oh, I see what my brain's doing to me, and it's stuck on repeat. And there's a pattern of why your brain reminds you of stuff. It's kind of a feature, not a bug, but it certainly can get out of control.
Very much so.
Yeah. Guys, give us your .com so we go out so people can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, the Journeyman Collective, www.thejourneymancollective.com. We look forward to hearing from your listeners, and hopefully they enjoyed the show.
There you go. Thank you very much for coming to the show, gentlemen. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. This was great.
Thank you. And thanks, Jonas, for tuning in. Refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and all this crazy place on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have us out.